Alright, we're getting close to the finale of this stuff. I've talked about part 1, I talked about part 2. Both of them are great games, some of them are bad games, some of them are okay games. But let's see if this last part can top it all off, or maybe it might suffer like the rest of them. All of these are racing games, believe it or not, and there's 8 of them. So, let's go ahead and talk about every single racing game that there has to be on these things. But yeah, most of these are just arcade games, and some of them just happen to be versions based off the Dreamcast version, which we'll start with right now. But I have one complaint about this. For one thing, they changed the UI once again. It's not bad, but doing promise it's not even in alphabetical order, so it makes it a little confusing. So yeah, let's start talking about this. Hydro Thunder. A lot of you guys might remember this as a Dreamcast and Nintendo 64 game, and that's exactly what it is. Well, it's basically based off the Dreamcast version, to be specific. But what's cool about this is that it's a boat racing game, and you go around and you race. The key part of the game is that you really need to use nitro, and you need this to win. Seriously, you can't win without using a nitro boost. If you don't use it, there's no way you'll be able to win it. There's plenty of tracks, both easy, medium, and whatever. And you got plenty of things to do in this one. You go around, you race, and that's it. But yeah, in case you guys like this game, there is a sequel on the Xbox 360, and it is backwards compatible, to be specific. So yeah, if you guys like this game, then check out the sequel on the Xbox 360. Oh, and it's an Xbox exclusive, to be specific. Rush 2049. Another classic Nintendo 64 and Dreamcast game, which is also, I'm pretty sure is also based on the Dreamcast version, to be specific. The Rush series has a whole bunch of common things, a lot of shortcuts. As you've seen, I tried taking it, but sometimes the mobility of these cars can be a bit weird or whatever. Some cars have their own strengths and weaknesses, just like any other racing game you guys can play. But seriously, this game, or at least a series of the Rush series, to be specific, has some of the longest maps out there, and they take around maybe 3 to 5 minutes to beat. I'm not kidding when I say this, they really are long. There's plenty of shortcuts you guys can find, all random. Sometimes you might find a coin, I don't know what they're for, but they're all scattered around the place. You gotta use your mind about what type of shortcut you get next time. Seriously, I took a shortcut and then I just got hit by a gate. How's that a shortcut? Maybe there was a switch that I missed, but I don't know. But yeah, you go fast, and that's exactly what you need to do. You need to go faster than any other player. But this one I find a bit difficult in order to play. I really wish I was making this up. So this one on the Arcade Treasures, they have some options for you guys to play around with. But I don't know if it's based on the Xbox version or whatever, but one of these games or whatever, you could play around with one fog on or whatever, from what I remembered, but yeah, some of these things have their own exclusives or whatever. Off-Road Thunder. It's a dirt tracking game. Well, it's more like a monster truck type of game or whatever, right? You got 3 modes. You got rally, demolition, and the flag. You gotta snag them. Demolition is your basic demolition game. It's not like you have to crash everyone 24/7 in some sort of deathmatch rally or whatever, or arena. You have to get most score, but also you have to try to win the race. You do this by crashing a whole bunch of players. Nitro comes in handy in this one. It's actually pretty fun. And it's pretty easy to crash into people, but sometimes it might be hard to crash into them. But at the same time, this game has a rally one. It's similar to the demolition, but you have to win the races. Oh, and just like Hydro Thunder, you need the nitro in order to win. Seriously, it's like I said, you need the nitro, because otherwise, there's no way you're going to be able to win these things. And there's snag the flag too. This was the hardest one. The only way to get the flags by ramming other players, but other players are trying to ram over you, and you also need to win this too. I don't know what to say, because the flag one is the hardest of everything. I hate the capturing the flag things, only because whenever I play capture the flag, it takes long and long and long to actually beat these things. And sometimes you do the same thing over and over, you don't realize it. That's always the biggest complaint about these capture the flag nonsenses. It just goes on and on. Even if it has a time limit or not, it still goes on regardless. And that's why I just hate this capture the flag stuff. It's way too long for you to even do anything. But other than that, Off-Road Thunder, not a bad game. Let's check out some more. Oh, and what do you know? It starts you from the top of the UI. That's another complaint I have about the game. Why couldn't you just start where you left off with one of these games? The first 2 games actually did this. Why couldn't the other ones do it? Anyways, this is San Francisco Rush to Rock, whatever edition it says or whatever. This is actually based in a ground up from the go and whatever. But this one's a little different. The audio has been replaced, but the physics engine is also slightly different. It's the same game as the arcade version, but crazy enough, this version of the game actually runs in 60 frames. Holy cow, it actually runs faster than the arcade version according to what it says. Now, I know this is built from the ground up, but I want to mention that the first game in the series, this is the first game in the series by the way, it was also on the Nintendo 64, which is also a pretty decent version to play. But the thing is that it could be a little harder too. It could depend on the car you're driving or tracks too. But yeah, this is the first game in the series to introduce like a whole bunch of shortcuts. And I mean, this game has a whole lot of shortcuts. It might lead you to some sort of secret areas in the game. It's pretty cool. The only thing about these cars is that if you're a beginner car, your speed is slow, but your control is pretty good. But the higher difficulty has better speed, but has the worst control. So it goes like both ways, you know. But that's exactly what it is. It's actually a called classic game, and a memorable one too. I think it's only memorable because of the music. Stun Racer, and it's a polygonal game. I think this also got a Lynx release. I think this might have been the only racing game out of this one that has this one. But yeah, now let's talk about Stun Racer. Like I said, it's a polygon racing one, but you don't control the gas, it's self-driving. So you go around, you have to make your way to the exit without getting stopped or whatever. You use the stars to boost up yourself. If you take any bumps or get hit or whatever, then you basically lose your momentum. So yeah, it's harder than it looks, but I really do think you guys might like this game. Only because this is different than any other racing game there is. It's not really a racing game, but more like a race to the exit. You really have no opponents to fight. It's just you trying to make your way to the exit. But yeah, there's some power-ups here and there, but that's all I can really say about this game. It's on the harder side, but it's not hard where it's unfair, but more hard to have fun. Like, what I mean is like, it's fun, but it is on the difficult side to play. But yeah, if you guys want a challenge, check this game out. Badland. This is quite similar to the sprint games I previously talked about in both part 1 and part 2 of the collaborations. This one is more like a post-apocalyptic version of it, because it controls identical, but the thing is, you can actually shoot your opponents. And just like the power-up thingies, I've already mentioned that in the previous video of the whole collection. But yeah, it plays identical, and there are like shortcuts, so consider this either a spiritual successor or a spin-off of the series. So overall, not a bad racing game. So yeah, that's all I can really say. But one other thing I should mention. I don't know if it depends on the place you're in or whatever, but you can actually get some upgrades for your wheels, or maybe get some missiles and shields and whatever. But yeah, that's kind of all I can really say. At least this one has upgrades, and you can play up to 2 players. At least from the looks of it. Race Driving. Oh, gosh. So it's a sequel to Hard Driving, or whatever. Oh wow, this is a little harder to start up the car than the last one, so there is some changes, but the graphics are pretty identical. It's the same idea as the last one, and whatever. You get your sticking time limit. and you can choose whichever place you want to go. And yeah, just for further embarrassment, they do still have the replay option. We get run over by a car or truck or whatever it is. I actually made it a little further than the first game, to be honest. But weirdly, you need to fill up your gas. Yeah, apparently they went for more of a realistic approach. It could have been from the last one as well, but I never made it far to find out. You know, I was worried if I was going to encounter the same glitch as the last game, but I didn't, thankfully. But one other thing I should just say is that you think crossing over the checkpoint would give you more time, but it didn't. How come? Every other arcade game does this. This one's a little different. It's so weird, but whatever. That's all I can really say about it. Super Off-Road, the last game in this compilation. Wow, I can't believe I'm actually saying this. This one also includes the Track Pack expansion for this game as well, so you could play either on this one or its Track Pack. So it's cool that they included the expansion pack of the game as well, so it gives you more things to do. Now, I got confused as to who I was or whatever, but it turns out I was this red car, probably because I was first player. I think you could play up to 3 players or something. But after you complete these races, you can actually upgrade your vehicles in terms of getting more nitro or whatever else you may need. You need money to do it. And crazy enough, there's actually these money bags that you can find in this one. It's hard to actually play, but it's okay. It's not a bad game. You just gotta get some practice and then you'll have a fun time playing this. I kinda used too much nitro boost. I didn't know what I was doing here, so that's all me. So that's all I can really say about this. So after this game came out, or whatever, there was also this extended play version on the PSP, which combines both 1 and 2 together, and the inclusion of Mortal Kombat 1. But this time it was actually developed by Backbone. What I've heard is that they stretched the image. Why? But thankfully you can actually change it. By pausing the game, you can hold the L and square buttons to change it back to its original aspect ratio. But yeah, why would you want to play it stretched? It just looks dumb. But there was also this deluxe version combining both 2 and 3 for PC. But sadly in 2010, Midway filed for bankruptcy and Warner Brothers would actually buy the rights to most of the franchises. In fact, around the time in the PS3 and Xbox 360's life cycle, they released this Midway Arcade Origins compilation. It's essentially the same games as I've already talked about this one. Some play even worse than these versions, only because, like I once mentioned about the Total Carnage one, the R-stick just refuses to aim where I want it to go. So that's kind of like one complaint. It was already developed by Backbone, who also did the PSP version. You'd think they learned by this, but I don't know. The big thing is that it has achievement support and leaderboard support. You know, that's the thing I never mentioned. The Xbox versions of these things only have the leaderboards functionalities. The PS2 and GameCube versions don't have this, despite the PS2 having online features and any other games. So, all I can really say is that I would just play the Arcade Treasures instead of Origins. It's actually a much better version, regardless of whichever system you have. That's all I can really say.